be joining me today Rocio Perez and Dr. Francisco Valle, which I'm going to let them introduce themselves in a minute. But thank you so much for joining us. This is the third R3 Bootcamp sponsored by our good friends at Wells Fargo. Dr. Francisco Valle already gave us two master presentations over the last 2 months. And I want to invite you to go back into our archive and look at the videos from those presentations because he shared a lot of knowledge in those two sessions. They were very comprehensive presentations, and you guys can learn a lot from those. But today we wanted to make it a little more intimate, a little different, and we're going to be talking about two important topics: access to capital and networking. And the theme that we have today for this discussion is just perfect. We have the best of both worlds right now. So we're gonna start with Rocio Perez. Rocio, welcome, bienvenida.
Muchísimas gracias. Es un gran placer. It's such a pleasure to be here with you today. Thank you so much for the invitation to be here. I'm Rocio Perez. I'm author, speaker, trainer, and inventor. I am a breakthrough leadership coach. I help people so that they can create the life that they love and they desire, breaking through that next level of whatever it takes so that they can live the life that they want. To create those opportunities, create extraordinary things. I've had the privilege to work around the world with individuals at all levels, from an individual that's leading themselves to individuals that are leading 5,000 people. And that's been my privilege and honor. I do a lot of media, author of Unstoppable, 7 steps for becoming a more intentional leader. And it's such an honor. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Rocio. Dr. Valle.
Oh, thank you. Again, thank you for inviting me here. It's a pleasure to be with Rocio, yourself, and the rest of the members. And my bio is pretty simple. In the past 18 years, I have a company called Valle Consulting that we provide strategy and integrated marketing consulting for companies of all sizes. I work from small companies, entrepreneurs, turnarounds, etc., all the way to multi-billion-dollar corporations. And in addition to that, in my prior life, I used to serve as an executive from some of the largest corporations in the world. And obviously from them, I learned the good, the bad, and the ugly. And but there is a lot of challenges when you are a big company, that you cannot imagine as well as there. But I had a lot of opportunities to develop contacts as well as understand the financial world. And so, again, thank you. And I look forward to conducting, this panel with both of you and with the audience.
Thank you, Dr. Valle. And I want to thank all of you who are connecting live right now to this broadcast. Please make sure that you share. And if you have any questions, we're going to be addressing, like I said, two important topics: capital and networking. So if you have questions, make sure that you share them on any of the platforms that you're watching us, whether it is LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, and we'll be monitoring them. And after I ask my questions, then we'll have a little Q&A with our panelists. So I'm going to start with Dr. Valle. And Rocio, please chime in after Dr. Valle if you have anything to add in regards to this question. You know that it's extremely important to assess future funding requirements for running your business, right? So, Dr. Valle, what advice can you give us in regards to that important topic, short term and long term?
Okay, what I will say is, from a financial perspective, is you need to do two things at the beginning to start with. You need to develop as a owner or executive of a company a very good strategic plan, which in my world I call the what question. On the other hand, in addition to that, you also have to develop a very good marketing plan. But I really don't call it marketing plan, but I use that word because that's what most people use. But in reality, it's a tactical plan. It's the house. You execute the strategic plan. Now, each one of those need to have three different scenarios. One is what do you believe is the best scenario that you can achieve? Second, like for instance, can be, okay, what we need to do is grow the market by X%, let's say 5%. Oh, but if something happens, maybe we cannot achieve 5%, but we can only achieve 4% or 3%. And then the other scenario is what happened if everything goes sour or doesn't go well, and now I only get 1%. Or like right now, what with COVID, right? Many of us are not getting even 1%. So it's very, very difficult. So you have to do the same thing with the tactical plan, because there is where most of the money is spent. Not only from the marketing side, but as well as from the operating side, the production of that. So in my opinion, is very important that you do the same thing. How we're going to be able to adjust quickly to either implement the best position, the best outcome, or how can we rapidly adjust
Okay.
to be able to counteract that. So those are and the other thing is to have good financials and very good connections to be able to do that.
Thank you, Dr. Valle. So, same question to you, Rocio. I'm a small business owner. I have some cash in the bank right now. What advice can you give us on how to forecast, like access to funding in the short term and long term? Like how do you come up with a strategy that can help you that you don't run out of money? I don't know whose phone was that, but I distracted.
It was my phone. It came through on the computer. My apologies on that.
No worries. So, any advice, Rocio?
Most definitely. And I really agree with you, Dr. Baez, to make sure that individuals have a tactical plan, that they have their strategic plan, that they know exactly what are your goals, what are your objectives, who's going to do what by when with what resources, and also the testing, tracking, and tweaking aspect of it to ensure that individuals know exactly what you test on a regular basis, you can actually measure, right? When you're constantly looking at it and having those systems in place. Those are very, very important. You named two of the most important ones, strategy and marketing. And when we have those, we can get ahead of the market. And then to also look at forecast. What does it look like in the future? What will people need as a result of this particular market? Typically in strategic planning, most companies are doing anywhere from 3 to 10 years at a minimum, right? Some of them are even going far ahead. I'm looking at, we're only setting a strategy for 18 months. We're looking at it from 3 to 6 months, and we're laying it out 6 months total, because this market is shifting constantly, and you've got to get ahead of it. You can't go and marry a plan. Make sure that as you're making progress, that you're taking a look at what's happening. Don't worry about implementing it fully. As long as you continually test it, track it, and tweak it, and make sure that you're analyzing what happened, what didn't happen, what can happen. Who do we need to leverage in this aspect, right? Because there may be individuals that we can leverage and we're not taking advantage of those opportunities.
I like what you mentioned, Rocio, about the time frames. 3 months, 6 months, 3 years. How important it is to calculate the working capital that a business needs, given various growth scenarios. Because picture this: let's say that there is a small business that already forecasted 6 months, 18 months, but all of a sudden there is this huge demand for their products or services, because communities start engaging with the business, they start gaining good traction. What advice can you give in a scenario like that? Because it can happen to any of us, and it's actually happening right now with the pandemic has hit some businesses very hard, but some others are like running out of inventory because of the internet. So what advice can you give in regards to forecasting working capital in different growth scenarios?
Most definitely. Always be marketing, always be networking, always make sure that you have a variety of individuals that you're connected to, whether those are banks or investors or people that can lend you short-term capital, as well as even taking a look at your products and products that you're doing, especially for the individuals that have tangible products, to expand really quick. Where are you bringing your products from? I know that at the beginning of COVID, it took 6 months to get some of my products in the States. And those were just products that I was ordering personally. I can only imagine if something hits right here, how are we going to be able to expand? What does it look like? So always having that contingency plan, taking a look at the number one key thing any business owner must do is secure capital and market your company and make sure that you stay ahead. To have insight doesn't mean you have foresight. And foresight is so important to ensure that we know where we're going to get that capital from.
Dr. Valle, same question. Like, if we have these crazy fluctuations in the business, how can you calculate working capital so you stay consistent with your operation and it doesn't affect what you are currently doing, whether it's a pandemic or your business is scaling up too fast?
Yeah, that is where you go into the strategic part. As Rocio was saying, you can, if you do the strategic part and you have the network available, you can implement it. But for instance, if you don't calculate in your strategic plan what are going to be the different cash flows as well as the different capital needs during the time frame, some places is 3-6 months, 1 year, other places is 3 years, 5 years, etc. Depends on the size.
Mm-hmm.
But the important thing is that part of the strategic components has to be what kind of capital and cash flow you're going to need for each step that you're going to pursue. The second thing is, it's very important to have very good relationship with financial institutions like Wells Fargo. So you can actually, before you even start, let's say this coming year, right, in 2021, you already completed your strategic plan. You already know how much you're going to need in that year and under each of the scenarios, right, and how much you're going to need the following years. In any case, you need to sit down with your financial banker to tell them, hey, this is what we forecast or estimate. So you heads up, right? Be aware.
But these businesses are gonna need the help of someone like you, right? And because I was part of this Zoom call earlier today, and they were suggesting or recommending to small businesses right now to get their documents in order, their budgets, their forecast for 2021. There is going to be another stimulus package according to what we're hearing on the news at some point. So how can they, because this has been a year of transformation, right? Everyone has had to change some part of the business model or part of the process, internal process in the operation. What recommendations can you give small businesses right now, what they can do in the next 3 weeks to go and sit down, just like you said, with their financial advisor, or banker, to get that access to that working capital that they need to keep growing? Dr. Valle, and then I would like to hear from Rocio too.
As Rocio said, that's what also the network that you have is very important. Because if you haven't had a good relationship with a banker for years, and you're going to try to get money in 3 weeks, especially with the holidays coming up, it's going to be kind of difficult. So it's better, right?
Give him some hope. Give him some hope.
No. You know me, I'm realistic,
Yeah.
But that's what I'm saying is, if you have good relationship with friends, or business people, either they can provide you the money that you're going to need as a loan, let's say. They're going to also, these networks are going to introduce you to other people that you may need to know if you haven't had a relationship with banks already. I think I shared in a prior example, in a prior webinars, I went into that. I used to work for Fortune 50 companies where they say, okay, go and start a division, right? And they give me $300 to $500 million signature authority. So I didn't have to worry about cash flow.
Mhm.
But then when I started, I was invited to be the CEO of a small agency, advertising agency. Suddenly, we did so well, right? Then 1 week we get two $500,000 orders,
Mhm.
and that's what we wanted to do. But then, of those 500,000 orders, we had to pay $600,000 just to produce the goods, and then on top of that, we have to wait another, 30, 60, or 90 days, depends on how big the company is, to get paid.
To get paid.
So this I'm saying applies to small business as entrepreneurs or large business. So that's why it's important, as I mentioned in the prior webinars, that you have an excellent either board of advisors or board of directors.
Yeah, so they
And
can
those people-
try to guide you along the way. Rocio, let me
Yeah.
ask you something, because I know that you are consulting a lot of CEOs and top level executives. What are some of the actions that they're currently taking right now to prepare for 2021 after this, very difficult year for some? What are some of the things that they're doing to have access to working capital for the next year?
Most definitely, like Dr. Weiss talked about, the whole relationships, making sure that those relationships are ahead of time. People are preparing themselves. Prepare your loan documents, prepare your balance sheets, prepare your income statements, prepare everything that needs to be prepared right now. Because when the opportunity strikes, there's so many individuals that are not going to apply because they're not ready. The time frame, some people may get scared. Maybe it's too overwhelming. You take one thing step at a time, making sure people are putting their teams together. What am I going to need? To always have that board of advisors ready for you, to always make sure that you have a mentor, somebody that can walk you through these processes, who's been there, done that, and knows what to have foresight about, right? To take a look at and say, okay, this is what's going to happen in the near future. Let's go ahead and be ready for it. So they're preparing their teams. They're preparing their teams, and their teams are preparing their documents and getting everything in alignment. And like Dr. Weiss says, you want to build the relationships now. As a matter of fact, you wanted them 3 years ago, right? If not 10 years ago, to make sure, because a lot of people are scrambling like, how do I do this? Now imagine you're scrambling and trying to come up with the documents and everything that's necessary. Right now, always be ready. Always be ready for that.
Now, let me ask you something.
If I may add a couple of things.
Yeah, go ahead.
Can I add a couple of things?
Yes.
Yeah, but what I was talking before was the worst scenario, right? As far as getting credit right now in only a couple of weeks. On the other hand, if you got all the paperwork ready, as Lucio was saying, and you have good connections or relationships with some people, not necessarily financial institutions, then it facilitates the whole thing. They can expedite it, especially now. In the financial world, they get big bonuses if they reach certain thresholds. So they are all hungry. At the same time,
Yes.
it's important. It's very important to have all the paperwork ready, and not only that for your own business, but for your personal needs, because those are some of the pains of growing, especially when you're growing really fast or when you're in difficult situations. Sometimes you can more put your personal assets as collaterals, either your savings accounts, or your financial instruments, whatever you have.
Let me share a question or a comment that we're receiving a lot of comments right here in the main chat room. Enrique Velez is telling us right now that only 2% of Black businesses receive PPP loans. Only 6% of Hispanic businesses receive PPP loans. And he's saying that they're not, or we have to be financially ready, right? And you guys have been addressing over the last few minutes the importance of having all your financials in order and everything. So let me ask you this question to follow up on this comment. Besides building relationships with your banker, what other options small businesses have right now to have access to working capital based on your experience and what you are seeing in the marketplace with your clients and your connections, and etc. Who wants to take it first?
Ladies
Dr.
first.
Valles.
Rocio.
Ladies first. Fabulous. Well, what I'm seeing right now is that there's a lot of individuals that are looking at VC capital, that they're looking at funding, at many different types of funding. And it really depends on the individual. They're looking at SBA loans. They're looking at a variety of things and how to leverage their money, how to make the most of it. And it's everywhere right now. And those who are going to get it are the ones that are ready. And I get it. Only 2% of
So you're saying that there is
only
money out there, Rocio?
there is money out there. There is money for the people that are ready. There's money, because that money, it doesn't matter who it is. There's only a certain amount of money that's going in this pot, and if you're ready, you can just turn around and say, like Dr. Valles talked about, even your personal assets, to turn around and say, okay, here's my collateral. This is what backs it up, and you're ready. That's it. There is money out there right now. As a matter of fact, I think that there's a lot of money for individuals who have been waiting for this moment for the market to go down so that they can capitalize on this as well as
yeah.
lenders.
That's another panel discussion right there.
Yes, it
Dr.
is.
Valle?
Then I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
There is where also, we're talking about here externally, right? As far as what you can do. From an internal point of view, the ways to generate funds right away is first, and I'll talk about this in the first webinar that you invite me, is what can you do internally to lower the cost significantly? So you can talk to your bankers, right, or potential lenders. Hey, this is what I'm doing.
The cost of the loan?
No, the internal cost of the operation.
Of the operation of the business as a whole.
The business itself, internally. That's why I'm saying internal. Mm-hmm. So you can go to them and say, look, I'm already taking these steps to minimize the capital needs that my business will have to continue growing. And then the other thing is, the key thing is you have to show that you are not going to just stay the same, but you're going to try to grow, not only to what you were before, but even further. Mm-hmm. So this strategic plan that you have to show them, your business plan has to be really well thought out. And it's not just going and buying a $50 computer package, and just put your numbers in there. Mm-hmm. No, it takes more than that. Yeah. And the other thing is, that you need to have very good relationship also with your suppliers, because people don't see that. But let's say, especially you create a lot of hard goods. How can you, right, ask the supplier, if you have a good relationship with them, hey, can you extend my payment credits? Mm-hmm. So instead of paying every 30 days or 60 days, can you give me 90-day credit? Or at least just one extra month. Mm-hmm. So that also help you with your financial situation. And that doesn't take too much in some cases. You can just grab a telephone, right, and boom, the money's there. The other thing is very important. I'm sorry.
No,
is to buy risk insurance, even when you're a little or a small company.
Right.
Because most people don't understand how those instruments work. But it's like buying life insurance or dental insurance or healthcare insurance. Now think on the same terms, for your business. So personally, most of us, right, have at least three types of insurance regarding our health. We have main healthcare insurance, we have dental insurance, and we have vision insurance. So it's the same thing here, right? What are your three, that's why I always talk about this, because people can visualize it, is what are your three ways, right, to support your potential insurance risks? And that's what most people don't think about.
So can you say those three insurance for the business? Risk insurance, what was the other one?
Oh, in case of failure, they can pay you. So you need to have risk insurance. You need to have very good sources or ways to present to the potential lender that you are covered. And the other thing is, that you are not just planning to keep your current situation, but you're planning to grow, and how you're going to get out of it.
Okay. So what I wanted to mention earlier, based on your comment, is like something that I have noticed, over the last 3-4 months during this pandemic. Is like a lot of small businesses are supporting each other with longer payment terms because they have been affected too. So I kind of like see the solidarity, amongst the small business community. Like, what, like, I'm not getting paid on time, so I'll give you a break too. And I think that's how we can support each other. Also, it's like there are certain stuff that we can do at our level that has nothing to do with banks and stuff, that I think is going to help the small business community to get out of this crisis faster. So being sensitive to what everyone is going through, not just in our businesses, because we also need to, and I think Dr. Valle mentioned it in the last presentation, that you have to have or be on the right mindset, like, and we're gonna go into this with Rocio in a
In a
minute.
moment.
But I think that's a priority too. And we're almost like halfway, through this panel, and time flies. So before we jump into the networking part, I want to ask you both of you again, based on your experience, how can a small business manage a working capital plan effectively? Because you know that you can have it and it's gonna be like really nice, and after month 3 that plan is off the board and it's like trying to put the fire away and just trying to make it as to the best of your abilities, right? So, Dr. Valle, how can you put together a working capital plan effectively that you can stick to it, honor it, whether it's pandemic or not pandemic, and it can help you to keep your business moving forward?
Yeah, excellent question. There is where I call you. Are you writing a software-based strategic and tactical plan, or are you really writing a realistic plan? Because one thing, financial people, bankers, can smell if you are just putting big growth or big recovery or restoration or whatever, versus how realistic the thing is. Because most of these people have a lot of experience because they incorporated already with a lot of businesses.
Mm-hmm.
So they can tell if you are realistic or not. So I recommend that the plan be actually based on facts. So again, when you talk about that, you can say, okay, look, this is the current business that I have, or this, let's say 100 businesses or accounts, or 50, whatever the number is. All these things that we're discussing here applies to anyone, okay, from a small business to a big corporation.
A big corporation.
Now, the thing is, you mentioned something that I would like to add to. That's very, very important. Businesses after $1 million and sales a year, which most Hispanics business are at that level. Like 1.2 on average in the whole United States, okay?
Mm-hmm.
You take it out like the Molina Healthcares when they were under the Molina family or some others. There are some telephone companies there are in the country, and as well as some petroleum-based companies. Those are outliers from this. Okay? But most Hispanic businesses, and African American are more personal. So it's good that you have the relationship with your own people to grow, right? And to help you survive and all those things. But remember, until you get to 5 million or 1 million, right? You can do that. Then when you get to $5 million, you start using your credit cards. After 10 million or 30 million, you better have good financial ways to secure cash flow solutions. Otherwise, you're not going to make it, because you cannot survive just on using your credit cards or line of credit from your home. So that is key. So don't think it's small, think big, even when you're starting. And there is where I always talk about, and I'm sure that Rocio knows much more than I do about this. Beliefs are the worst enemy of growth. If you don't believe you can make it big, if you don't believe you can survive, it's not going to happen.
You have to
But
quote
on
that
the other
one,
hand, if you
Dr.
believe
Valle.
you can do it, the thing grows.
That's true.
We're going to have to quote that one right there.
Say
Wow.
it again. Beliefs are what? The worst
The worst enemies of growth.
beliefs
Or
are
the
worst enemies
highest
of growth.
limitations of growth. Anything like that. Depends on the situation is where you use it. But there is, if you don't believe that yourself, right, that you can grow, it's not going to happen.
Mm-hmm. That's
The
true.
issue that many underrepresented businesses, have is they are loaded with a lot of cost for the employment of their own friends or relatives and for the benefits that they have to give to them. And under these conditions currently, we have to make tough decisions regarding that. As I mentioned before, it's like, yeah, Joe helped me, Taide helped me from the beginning. He has been 19 years or 10 years with me. But Taide, I cannot do it. It's a very tough thing to do. But on the other hand, hey, Taide, don't worry, when things turn around, I want you back.
Yeah. And
No, I'm sorry, I'm using it because everybody's conceiving,
I would like to add two things to that. So important to ensure that we have wraparound services, have a relationship with a bank that has wraparound services for your business that can go from A to Z. It's not just a loan. It's not just a line of credit. It is everything that has to do with any financial instrument inside of your business, and that they also have relationships with other entities that can support you, whether it's for payroll, whether it's for any other type of vendors. Our most precious and underutilized resource is our team members.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to repeat that. Our most precious and underutilized resource are our team members, because we're not bringing them into the boardroom. We're not asking them to make decisions with us. We're not asking them to co-create an experience that if they were to co-create an experience, they could be the ones to say, hey, what is it that we're not looking at? And maybe asking this question. This is a question that I always ask of my team. What is it that we're not seeing? That if it was here, it would make an extraordinary difference. What are we not seeing? That if it was present, it would completely shift the course of how we're doing things to be able to save time, energy, money, resources, leverage relationships, and you named it, Taide, to make sure that you're working with other businesses and giving each other breaks. Well, how about we just leverage? You're going to need a strategic plan. I do strategic planning. You do marketing. I'm going to need marketing. How do we go ahead and barter those services so that we're able to grow and put it in writing, right? There's commitment right there for all of us. And the mindset, wow. I know you have questions. I'm going to let you ask them, Taide, because I can just go on about
I know,
mindset.
and we're going to jump into that right away, because I know that I see a lot of people engaging with us right now on LinkedIn and following this panel discussion. And I'm sure that your profiles are going to be checked out by some of these people. Please let us know, Rocio, how can a business owner benefit right now from working with a leadership breakthrough coach like you?
Wow. So one of the major ways is to be able to see something in the future. Here's one of my favorite terms, is to be able to see, and what you named, Dr. Weiss, is like the mindset of it. It's so important to do a mindset check. Right now, in a time in our economy, in our history, that we haven't seen this before, at least in our lifetime, that people are panicking. They're trying to figure out, how am I going to make payroll 6 months from now, or even 3 months? Forget about it, 6 weeks from now. Let's not even go too far. And our mindset can get in the way of what we're doing. And it could be our worst enemy. It could either be our best friend or our worst enemy. And for me, until the unfamiliar becomes more familiar than the familiar, which is, in this case, is the pandemic, it's the chaos, it's the scarcity, or maybe things or lack thereof, until the unfamiliar becomes more familiar than the familiar, then that's when we're going to have what we have. We must focus on what is possible, not what's in front of us. Okay, acknowledge what's in front of us, but stay focused on that mindset, because that's either going to make you or break you. It'll take you out of the game. In my experience, I work with extraordinary CEOs of their companies They've never reached that level of success. Maybe there's people that have earned 70 million. They've never had that. And then they lose it all. That's called self-sabotage. And they'll go back, excuse me, and they'll build another business. And they have this extraordinary business. And then they lose it again. And they'll go on this perpetual roller coaster, and it's not working for them. Here's a great opportunity where we can look at it. To control your mindset is to control your world. He who controls their thoughts controls the world and their world.
There you go. So
those are some of the biggest things, and we can definitely continue on that. And I know you have a number of questions, and I want to answer all your questions.
no, but that's thank you so much for explaining what you do, and I completely agree with you. Like, if we are not in peace with ourselves and we don't have a clear mind, it's very difficult to take good decisions in our business when we are under so much stress and we don't have like a clear vision of how we can tackle some of the challenges and barriers that we are facing right now with this pandemic. And on top of that, the regular or traditional business challenges that we have. But Dr. Valle, I know that you're a very successful consultant, and in your career, what have you done to keep yourself in peace with yourself so you can be a good asset for your clients? And if you can share, some of the things that you do to always be with a very clear vision and with a clear head and be the best resource to your clients.
Well, first, I've been very fortunate. I've been married for 35 years, to my wife, and she kissed me alive many times. I got to give you credit for that.
There you go.
So I share with you some things before I go outside. No, but all kidding aside, what I've always done is continue learning from highly successful people how they did it. Because think about this. When El Pollo Loco started, right, here in Southern California, how many stores the person had? How many stores? Only
2.
One, right? The one that started. How many KFCs were there? A bunch of them, right? And that guy went to the bank with a lot of millions of dollars. Okay, I know the story there inside. So you talk about Walmart, another good example. How many stores Sears had before there was one Walmart? 900, 862 to be exact. Okay.
Yeah.
So that is the kind of things that I learned from. I read a lot of biographies of highly successful people. Because another thing, there are two things they always keep in mind. One is Rocio referred to it. Peter Drucker used to say, great leaders, regardless of the size of the company, can see the future that has already happened. Meaning that you have to be good enough to see what is happening and what is changing, right? To turn it into a successful business, regardless of size again.
But is that a skill that can be developed, like to become like that visionary?
Okay, I want to jump out of my seat. Yes,
go ahead,
yes,
go ahead.
yes.
Then I will add there. Okay?
One of the things is like when we are in alignment, when we're at peace with ourselves, when we take care of ourselves, mindfulness, self-care, number one key things. It's not what we do as entrepreneurs, right? When we talk about, you get on that airplane, they say, put your mask on first. I'm the most selfish person you're ever going to meet. I take the first 2 to 3 hours a day for me. I work out, I meditate, I read things, I positive audio. I feed my mind. I have to be in a place of certainty.
Mm-hmm.
I have to be more convicted than the person who thinks they're convicted, right? I must be more convicted in my products, in my services, in who I am being and how to see that. Self-care, number one. Mm-hmm. And then getting in alignment with who and where you're going. Where are you going? Do you know, is that vision there? And in working with individuals, I've seen individuals who are amazing rock stars, mm-hmm. and they're in the boardroom and they're afraid of the people around them. Sometimes they're women, they're like, They have 15, 20 years of experience running their company, and sometimes they're afraid of being around men, right?
Mhm.
And that happens. When we look at psychological safety, and even Google, who did their study, 70% of individuals don't feel psychologically safe to make a contribution
Wow.
at work. Imagine that. If that person's not aligned, if not everything's going, and I'm looking at their relationships being aligned, I'm looking at even their mindfulness, their financials, their intellectual, even their bucket list. If there's things that you want to accomplish in your life, when I see a person that's completely fulfilled in every area of their life, and it may be fulfilled and working on it, because life it's in progress. We're always making progress. And every human being, as long as we're making progress, we're heading in the right direction and we're happy. As long as we're celebrating. I see that a lot of entrepreneurs, and I included, I was not one of them that celebrated. I didn't celebrate my accomplishments. So we start, the whole weight of the world starts coming on our shoulders. And the biggest thing that we can ever do is have somebody outside of ourselves help us look inside of ourselves. And that's what a breakthrough coach does. That person helps you reflect. The hardest thing that any one of us has ever and will ever have to do is to review where we've been and to reflect on where we're going. What does that look like? The past will always predict the future. And I'm going to repeat that. The past will always predict the future, because it will. If we're having the same mindset right here, right now, that I had 10 years ago, and we all do, we must be consciously aware. 80% of the thoughts that we've had yesterday, we're having today.
That much?
Okay. We have anywhere from 50,000 thoughts to 70,000 thoughts a day. Since we've been sitting here, we've had anywhere from 35 thoughts to 48 thoughts a minute. Now, those thoughts, whether they're positive or negative, depends on where we're gearing. And guess what? That's going to be one of the greatest impacts, because anybody can give you the time, the energy, the money, the resources, the education. They can put the talent in front of us. Yet if our mindset is negative, and if we're in a place of scarcity and survival mode, it doesn't matter. They can lay it all out. We're going to, in a way, one way or another, we're going to sabotage that. And that's why it's important to have a breakthrough coach, somebody that can help you take a look inside of you so that you can take those gifts and build that confidence, build that courage, continue to see that vision.
That is so true, because we have seen cases where people, win the lottery or have a very successful deal, and all of a sudden, boom, everything is gone. Because they were not prepared. They were not prepared
within 2 years.
To deal with that wealth, right, Rocio?
Within 2
it's
years.
the same thing with the football players. Many of them are super rich, and then a few years later, they have no money.
So speaking of money, and net
Can I add to what Rocio said?
I'm sorry?
No. Oh.
Oh, no.
May I add to what Rocio said?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. And it's regarding also your question, right? So not only you need to have this mindfulness, when you act and when you're and exercise and keep yourself in good shape. But let me share something, that I learned through the years. One is, you can learn a lot of skills from going to schools, getting knowledge, how to do strategic planning, financial planning, etc. Different tools. On the other hand, so you can grow yourself, right, and learn more about financials, for instance, so how to run a business, etc. But on the other hand, and going back to the beliefs, as humans, we have something that nobody can copy. It's intuition. And intuition, not only when it's easy to see it, but when it is difficult. For instance, right now, I'm going to speak about Tom Hitch. It's not the one from Zappos that just passed away. It's a great example of how you can create something, right, from really nothing. But I'm talking about another person, this Tom Hitch, that lives by Claremont, California. Tom Hitch just started something that you won't believe it. An airline company in Alaska. You know, most people don't think that he's crazy, right? Why he started in the airline company right now? But he knows what to do. He has a plan, right? And he's doing. But on the other hand, intuition, nothing can overcome that or surpass that. For instance, with self-driven vehicles right now, they can go now self-driven, even the trailers, cargo, from here, let's say, to Denver or any place in the US, point A to point B. But why the technologies that companies like Google, and many others are developing, it doesn't work all the time. They have so many accidents that they don't feel that they can use it for general consumption. Why? Because all of those follow certain rules, right? It's either A or B, and then they are based on probability, but Monte Carlo simulations, etc. And they use artificial intelligence, but they cannot be able to imitate intuition, and that's why the CEOs of big companies make a lot of money, because they make that business grow, or they can kick it. You look at what happened to GE right now. How much is the stock? Just tank today, and they are dissolving the whole business. So, and they was fined, by the way, $200 million. So, but it's intuition doesn't replace any tools that you can buy.
Intuition.
And that, we all have it, okay? The only difference is how you develop and how you use it. That is where it's very important that you have people that has really a lot of wisdom, not only experience, but they have the wisdom, so they can communicate to you how you can use your intuition, because we all have it, but how you can develop that intuition. Sorry.
And one of the ways to develop that intuition is to ensure that we're completely aligned with ourselves. Intuition doesn't just come. We're not aware of it until we take out all the noise that doesn't serve us, all even the limiting beliefs that we may even have that are getting in the way of us even being aligned with ourselves, completely aligned. The major thing that we do is return people to who we were really meant to be, those intuitive beings. We are creators in this world. And when we think about it, we look at a tree cannot only be a tree, but human being has the potential to be anything that we want to be, as long as we have that conviction. I've met individuals who were doing landscape. They didn't even know how to read in their language. They didn't even speak the dominant language, and they were multi-millionaires based on their intuition, based on leveraging their team, based on really being able to work with individuals at different levels.
Now, let me ask you something, because I'm pretty sure that both of you guys have heard this before, that your network is your net worth. So speaking of intuition and stuff, like, what advice can you give small business owners on how to connect with the right people, regardless of what type of business you run? Rocio?
For me, thank you. I would say for me, continue to develop those relationships. Step outside your comfort zone. Take a look. Where do you want to go? Who do you want to become? Are you a millionaire? Do you want to become a billionaire? Start hanging out with billionaires. Start developing those relationships. Start being giving, because a lot of the time we're showing up to the room and we're looking for business, right? And they're looking for relationships because they're at a completely different level. When we're serving on boards of directors, advisors, for other people, being of service, everything that goes around comes around at the end of the day. And being the strongest person. I just had a conversation earlier today where sometimes we're even showing up energetically. We can be put in the right room. And if we have the mindset of negativity or scarcity, that energy is going to touch that person before we even get in that room. And I can guarantee you that no matter what, our energy makes it into the room before we even make it into the room. And the way that we look and communicate with individuals at that moment is really going to impact what we do. Really being confident, build your confidence. You want to read a great book? Amy Cuddy. Amy Cuddy talks about standing in the marathon pose that you've won, and to know that you've got to raise your energy when you go in there. Because a lot of the times, we've walked into rooms like limp noodles, right? That person's not even grounded, or a million things they're thinking about before they even walk into the room, and that's going to make an impact. Our network and our net worth are hand in hand.
What's
And
the
to
name
know
of the
that
book that you just mentioned from Amy?
Amy Cuddy, and I can get you the name in just a moment.
Okay.
It's one of Amy Cuddy's books on here, and I'll look for it when Dr. Baez is talking.
That's
But one of
perfect.
the greatest things on there is to ensure that we continue to develop life is about relationships.
Yeah.
It is about if I had $1 for every time somebody came up to me and said, Rocio, now who do you know in this network? And I just lost my job, or I lost my business.
Yeah.
Can you plug me in? I'm thinking it's going to take you 3 years to want to accomplish what you're going to accomplish, versus had you develop those relationships. Because even millionaires and billionaires are going to sit down. They're going to be more than happy. Tell me how you built it,
Mm-hmm.
right? Start to
Mm-hmm.
develop that relationship and let it be. Get to authentically know that person, build rapport with them, get to know who their children are, what are their interests, be giving. Because even if a person who's a multi-millionaire, billionaire who wants to mentor you also must have some value, right?
Mm-hmm.
Let's add some value back to those individuals and say, maybe I know that you're with the YMCA and that's a place that you like to volunteer at. What is it specifically that you like? Well, maybe, how about I help you volunteer in the next event? Show up as being a person of generosity and a person of impact and contribution to others.
Dr. Valle?
And let me just add to what Rocio was saying. That's very important. One is, do not waste any opportunity that may be presented to you to develop a network or relationships at the right levels that you want to pursue or you want to achieve.
Mm-hmm.
But when I say that, is this, and many times we undervalue the importance of dressing properly for the occasion.
Mm-hmm.
And why I'm saying the occasion is, you're not going to show up with a suit at a golf course, let's say, unless you're going to just give a little award to somebody, and then you have to leave to another meeting. But most of the time, you should dress accordingly. So it's very important, because if you are asking, for instance, for financial assistance, right, or a board of advisor, and you look not good, even though you may have the best idea, doesn't work that well. In most cases, although some cases it works, okay? And that's one thing. The other thing is, don't waste opportunities, because when you go to any place, you are going to be evaluated automatically. And why is that? Because our survival skills and the way that our brains, the two brains that we have are wired, we stereotype. And based on that, we determine whether I feel safe with the person or I don't feel safe with the person.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And the other thing is, when you develop relationships, I also mentioned this in another of the seminars, is don't only think about what that person can do for me or for you, right? But think about what the person needs that you can provide to them.
Mm-hmm.
And if they are really successful and they help you to be successful, they are not doing it because they need money. But on the other hand, they want to give back. So if you succeed, they feel that they succeed, and they may mention your name, let's say, in an important speech, and then suddenly you become a hero. So, but there is always a way that you can help somebody else. There is a key person for you to know, and there is always a way to connect to those people, because you know a bunch of people, Taide. Rocio knows a bunch of people. So it's not hard, but you have to be really attuned how to behave, how to conduct yourself, how to dress. And the other important is, what can you do to help the person? That's the most important thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. During this pandemic, unfortunately, we haven't been able to host as many events as we usually do, and that's one of the reasons why a lot of our members joined the association or the Hispanic Chamber of E-commerce, because they want to network with other individuals at these events. So, we're running short of time here, and this is probably my last question before I jump into a couple of questions that I'm looking at right here at the chat. But what recommendations can you give to business owners right now that, with so many, with very little opportunities to attend events, especially in California and other states that are shut down right now, or stay-at-home orders, how can they build new contacts, new relationships besides the opportunities that a chamber of commerce or a business associations can give them? What other options do they have? Rocio, any recommendations?
Most definitely. And I'd say leverage the resources, leverage LinkedIn, leverage places like the e-commerce, making sure that you sit down and know exactly, first and foremost, know where you're going, right? Know what your specific ask is. Because a lot of the times we're wondering, we start having a conversation, we don't even know what our ask is. How can individuals even know what we want and how to support us? And continue to start looking at other places. Where can I leverage my resources? Who is here in my network that could potentially, even looking through it, LinkedIn is such a great example. By then knows, Miguel Vargas from Colombia, and a place that I want to go do business. How do I leverage that right there, right now, where individuals are wanting to open up businesses and so forth? So be on the forefront, continue to be active, be very visible in your social media as well. Very, very important. And call people. I think a lot of people are waiting to create the plan and create the system and the strategy, and they're spending much more time than actually attempting to do the business. Reach out, pick up the phone calls, authentically get to know individuals. And I know that you may receive as many messages as I do. I connect with somebody on LinkedIn and all of a sudden they're telling me something immediately. And like, I want to have a conversation. Who are you? What's your superpower? Do you have any children?
I don't know if you have noticed, but at least for me, I have received a lot of postcards this year, more than in the last 12 years that I've been running the Hispanic Chamber of E-commerce. So people sending postcards like, hey, how you doing? I hope family is staying safe, blah, blah, blah. But it's like a nice touch, in this time. So Dr. Valle, any other recommendations?
Oh,
on how to extend your network?
Yeah, it is true that it's better, to attend face-to-face meetings, as I mentioned before. And the best thing is not only be a member of any organization or meetings or whatever, but actually take a leadership role or play a leadership role in that event. And people sometimes cannot see how you can do the same thing through here, through visual means like this, electronic or video. But it's the same thing. So if you are participating in the right meetings, so be prepared again to ask first strategic questions, the what questions, because the big people think that way first. And then they have the other people, right, do all the tactical thing. Okay, this is what I want to do. I want to grow 5%. You tell me, right, how we're going to do it. That's your job. That's the tactical side. Now, on the other hand, right, even through here, you ask the right questions. And then people start noticing. And you don't have to talk too much, but just a little question make a big difference. And the other thing is, again, if you can be invited, like you did, Rocio and I today, you invite us to come here and talk, which we like to do, I'm sure. We get exposed, let's say, but in a different role that if I just were attending, the location. So that's what it's the same thing than before. Mm-hmm. But again, think about what can I do for that person, right? It can benefit them or their members first, instead of just you benefiting. And then they say, hey, what about you? And then you can talk.
Beautiful. I want to add one quick thing. The book is Presence on that by the Presence by Amy Cuddy.
Okay.
And I'm just going to add one thing is to be generous with your energy and be ready. Put on your LinkedIn profile when you are asking those questions and you have the ability to be able to be in the chat. Put your name, put your LinkedIn profile, ask the question, be proactive, because one thing is to ask a question. The other thing is to give them your information. What if they like what you said? They can reach out to you as well. Give them an opportunity to reach out. Tell them how.
That's good. And can you repeat the book? Because Eddie Lane is asking you to.
It's Presence.
Presence by
Amy Cuddy.
Amy Cuddy. Perfect.
DDY.
Perfect. We have a question here for Dr. Valle. It says that you were right about the good, the bad, and the ugly when you mentioned it earlier. And based on your comments, he says that we have to have a strategy in place for both sides of the coin, the good times and the bad times. How do we allocate our time for allocating a strategy? And do we study the past, the present, or the future? Which one, Dr. Valle?
That's an excellent question. You need to, think about the past, because the past is a good predictor of what you're going to do or how your company is going to do. But on the other hand, think about this. What do you think that normally the front windshield in your car is much bigger than the rear one? Because they don't want you to be looking back, right? They want you to be looking forward, right? And so it's very important, right, that you concentrate using the past as experience, again, and then you can use your wisdom or the wisdom of your advisors or your friends to look to the future. And one thing I'd like to add to that is that if you feel that you have a friend, because that person is always telling you, oh, you're right, Francisco, keep on going, do your business this way, and they don't give you anything that is constructive feedback, then it's not a good thing, because we are never right all the time. So we need really constructive feedback. But most of us don't like to receive constructive feedback. And this is the best way to learn.
Enrique Vélez is saying, great analogy. Rocio, would you like to add something in regards to that question?
Most definitely. And I think one of the most important things that anyone can look at the end of the day is making sure where you're going, right? Focus, understand, learn from the past. Take a look at what's happening today and be able to decipher. Okay, don't just take it at face value for whoever says what. Be able to decipher and think about, you're in the middle of the ocean and you're calling your best friend and they're saying, let go of the platform. And you're like, well, I'm hanging on. This is the last thing I have. Well, let go. No, I let go, I die, right? Be the one to make the final decision. Think about your decisions. Make time to think. Make time to think. Schedule it. I think that's one of the greatest pieces of advice I've heard. Schedule time to think. Take a look. What's going to happen if I go down A? Let me take a look at all this information. What makes sense right now for my business? What doesn't make sense for my business? How do I incorporate what I have? You are the only one. You're the one who holds the roadmap 100% of the time. Make sure that you're the one who's also making that final decision, because the one who's going to have the final result is you.
Someone is asking you if there are any books that you recommend that can help this person to build his confidence.
I love it. That's a great question. My book, Unstoppable, 7 Steps for
Oh, there you go.
That's right.
There you go.
I have Unstoppable, 7 Steps for Becoming a More Intentional Leader. In that, the first section talks about mindset. How do we develop as human beings?
Can they buy it in Amazon? On Amazon?
They can buy it on Amazon. They can also contact me directly. I'll send them an autographed copy of the book.
Oh,
most definitely. Open to have conversations with anyone who's looking to make. I work with individuals that are committed, who are committed to excellence and going places. I want to make sure that it's a great use of your time to make sure that you build the life. The people that we had the privilege to work with, they live extraordinary lives. They're still ranting and raving about their successes, and they continue to have even more successes because they have control of their entire life. And that's what Unstoppable gives you, even a strategic plan. It gives you a tactical plan on that to ensure that you can take a look at where are you going? What's your roadmap? Great place to go.
Sign me up for the free book.
Yeah.
Right. So sign me up for Unstoppable. You've got that.
There you go.
No, but this is important, is that you follow the advice sometimes, and it's very hard because most of the time we want to do it our way, which, hey, it can work. But if you go faster, you learn from somebody else. They already learned from a lot of people and develop a framework for you to make it easier.
And it's very similar to baking a cake. You go buy a cake mix, and then you added a couple of extra ingredients, and then the cake doesn't come out the way it's supposed to come out. What makes us think that if somebody's already built it and they know exactly it is what they're doing and how they're doing it, that us adding our own 2 cents into it is always going to work, right? Follow the experts. Follow the experts. They know what they're doing. And then once we gain that knowledge, once we gain that wisdom, then we're able to move and be able to make those shifts, those 2 millimeter tweaks. Because I truly believe that everybody's 2 millimeters away from what they desire. You have this little shift in mindset. And it's the small things that we do are the very things that get in the way. It's not the big things. I can brush my teeth for the next 2 hours and I only brush them once a year. Is that going to work? Or is the difference that I brush my teeth 2 minutes a day for the rest of the year? Is that going to have a great impact? Again, it's the small things that are getting in the way. It's the decision not to make the phone call. It's the decision to withhold information from your partner. It's the decision here and a decision there, and compile all those decisions. Or maybe we're getting upset. We're not returning those phone calls, those emails. We're not showing up to the meetings. We're late. We're whatever it is. All of that actually has even greater impact than what we realize on our businesses.
I agree. And, there are some folks watching us right now that they agree with you guys. Ernesto, Enrique, Lázaro. There are many here that are saying thank you for everything that you guys shared today. Is there anything else that you would like to add before we leave? I know that we are a little over time right now, but anything else that you would like to add? Let's start with Rocio. Closing remarks.
The best investment that anyone can do is the investment in themselves, because that's what's going to give you everything. It's going to allow you to have that creativity. It's going to allow you to have the confidence, the courage, the vision. It's going to expand your vision. You're going to be able to step in a place of power, a place of certainty, confidence, commitment. Commitment is one of the greatest things that anyone can ever have. And that's where I've seen the greatest success of individuals when they've committed. Every area of their life has completely transformed. Invest in yourself.
There you go. Dr. Valle?
I would say 3 things. One is, have self-confidence on yourself and that you can make it. The second thing is, oh, by the way, because if you don't believe you can make it, as Rocio said, right?
Yeah.
It's not going to happen. The second thing is this. If you want to make it big, it's not only knowledge, experience, but you need wisdom. And then you need some capital to grow your business. So wisdom is the key part. And there's not too many people within your circle many times, right? They can provide you with that wisdom. So if you don't have it within your own circle, expand the circle, right? Expand the network and get the wisdom. And be humble about it. Be honest. Like, hey, Taide, I don't know about this. Can you help me? And soon, because our nature is to try to help other people. And then, so you have to be self-confident, right? Be honest. And the other thing is keep integrity. Because if you have integrity, people are going to talk to you or be more willing to help you. Because again, when you get to a certain level of expertise, regardless of age and wisdom, you can smell things. So don't try to tell me things, okay? Because I can smell it. And I don't know how more brutally say it, So we keep it in the mind. But it's true.
Yeah.
Dr. Valle,
And-
I echo that. Authenticity, integrity, and vulnerability, along with generosity.
Mhm.
Those things
Feedback.
they're the most important things that any business and any human being can ever have.
Mhm. You know what? I think both of you guys, Rosie and Dr. Bayo, are a great example of what confidence and investing in yourself and having the right connections can lead you into what you have become. You know, you are very successful at what you do. You are now helping hundreds of business owners to accomplish their goals and reach out higher limits in their careers. So I'm very grateful for your time and for sharing some of your knowledge today. There are a couple of folks that want to connect with you, so I'm going to be sending you. I'm be making the introductions via email. Speaking of networking, and these individuals are very successful, so I'm pretty sure that you guys will be able to work something out. So I want to thank you again for your time and everything that you shared today. And if there isn't anything else that you would like to add before we leave, oh yeah, please share your contact information real quick, so some of the other people that are not that confident to ask for your contact information can have.
Anybody, I could be texted and called at 303-587-8367. 303-587-8367. You can find me on LinkedIn. I'm in Taides Network. And you can also email me at rocio@inventivaconsulting.com. That's rocio@inventivaconsulting.com.
Mm-hmm. And even if you Google Rocio Perez Inventiva, you will find tons of links that will lead you to Rocio Perez.
All the links lead back to me.
Yeah, he's the only Rocio Perez in the U.S. Dr. Valle?
I'm the only Francisco too, right? So it's very.
Yeah. Hey, there is only one Dr. Valle that I know. So
one Dr. Valle, one Rocio.
Yeah. Dr. Valle, your contact info?
In my case, is my cell phone number, 949-500-8852. 949-500-8852. You can also reach me on my website, valleconsulting.com, or directly at Dr. Francisco Valle at valleconsulting.com.
And don't be shy, guys. If you reach out to Rocio or Dr. Valle for any of the topics that we talk about today, whether it's networking or access to capital or working on your business plan, etc., both of these individuals are very knowledgeable and they can help you out regardless of what stage your business is right now. They have the skill set to help you out. So make sure, especially right now, because of what we're going through, make sure that you reach out to professionals like Rocio and Dr. Valle, because this is where we all need help. And we need to reach out to those folks that we know that can provide us that help and that support. So thank you again. Have a nice evening. I really appreciate you. And thank you so much for your time and everything that you shared with us today. Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. And thank you to Wells Fargo.
Yes. Thank you to Wells Fargo. Let me put that we have a little issue with the template today, but there it is, little screen. But yeah, thank you to
right?
thank you to Wells Fargo for for sponsoring these conversations. I know that they are very valuable to a lot of you. So thank you to all of you that connected live also, and the ones that are going to be sharing this presentation later on. Thank you so much. We really appreciate it. Have a nice evening. Bye, Rocio.
Bye, Dr. Valle. Good night.
Good night.
Thank you, Tyler.
Thank you.